So I was about to start this thing up, and I was like, would anyone notice if I just put on, like, gameplay footage from, like, 3 weeks ago? Would anybody even notice? Oh, God. Okay, somebody would notice that that's not there. I'll be honest, I don't want to play Splatoon right now. But nothing else sounds good. And I can't update Fall Guys. Especially because I literally only decided to do this like 10 minutes ago. So, yeah. Splatfest time. It's Splatfest time, and it's once a month-ish. Because Splatfests only come every month to 2 months. That's next week. Maybe I'll actually want to play the game next week. I miss PUBG. It's been so long. Because that was long before I was big into Splatoon. Long before I was big into whatever long before I was big into Fall Guys. I was huge into PUBG for like that short period. There was like a short, like, year-long period. Maybe even like 8 months. Where I was just playing PUBG, man. And then I could not get into Fortnite. I tried. And it just didn't appeal to me. Okay, so 3 teams. Vanilla, boring, allergic to strawberry, mint chip is where it's at. Welcome to Team Mint Chip. It's funny, the toothpaste disgusts me. It makes me gag so bad. But, mint chip isn't bad. I like, Sprout. Oh god, what is the ghost from the Ghosted Molly McGee's name? Sprig? Sprig is the frog from Amphibia. I think it's Sprout. God, we're talking about that show in like probably like 30 minutes. Because that's one of the things, because I did watch the new episodes. Oh, shit. Today's gonna... Honestly, there was no news. I added a news story, like, last minute. And we'll go through that in, like, 10 minutes. And then that's it. We've got WIBE. And I've got a bunch of things to talk about in WIBE. Because I've been watching a few things. So we've got a long WIBE tonight. But actual, like, show. Like, news shit. It's not a very news-heavy week, you know? We're post-E3. News is dead until August. And literally the only reason I have stuff to talk about this week is because of the Microsoft lawsuit thing that we kind of talked about last week. So, you know, let's just get right into it, shall we? So, in the Microsoft lawsuit, as part of the lawsuit, you know, Microsoft has been arguing that they lost the console wars. That during the last generation, during the 360 era, or not, during the Xbox One era, PS4, Wii U, Microsoft lost the console wars. The reason why they're admitting they're lost is because it makes them look like underdogs in the eyes of the FTC or, you know, the judge who's handling the lawsuit, who is more likely to support them in acquiring Activision Blizzard. Even though, again, I do want to remind you this is a multi-billion-dollar, if not trillion-dollar company. Right? Them just saying that is them just, you know, wanting to... because they want Activision Blizzard. And so, as part of this lawsuit, one of the details... we talked a bunch about some of the details last week. One of the details we did not talk about was... I guess during the lawsuit, Microsoft said that, right, oh, we're losing the last console wars. I can't remember if they said they're losing this current console wars. But as part of their argument, they mentioned that they believe that this holiday season, PlayStation is going to be releasing a PS5 Slim. Which, I mean, it's been a few years since the PS5. You know, like, the PS5 has been, it was, what, 2020? We're now 2023. So, it's been a while. So, Microsoft believes that they're going to be releasing a PS5 Slim this holiday season at a reduced price of, I want to say, $399, so, you know, $400. Why are they doing this? Well, so this is not, like, confirmation from PlayStation that, like, hey, this is definitely happening. This is part of Microsoft's strategy to, you know, make them look like the underdogs. Like, hey, look, PlayStation's got a new console coming out this holiday season, potentially. Has stuff like this been wrong in the past? Oh, you better believe it. Again, Microsoft, in a different lawsuit, said that they thought Tears of the Kingdom was going to be coming out in 2020. So, yeah, no, these things have not been fully accurate. But, you know, it's what Microsoft is saying, that they think it's happening. Of course, Microsoft has their cheaper alternative to the Xbox Series X, called the Xbox Series S, which I've actually heard is a decent little box. You know, like, it does what it needs to do, and they're releasing a 1 terabyte version later this year. So that all seems fine. I don't know, I haven't... Maybe I should. I don't know, I'll think about it. Because, God, Starfield. That is true. I do have to remember that Starfield is coming out in just a little bit. Shit, yeah. I'll figure it out when I get there. But do I think this is going to happen? Well, actually, probably. Because, one, this is not the first time I've heard something out like a PS4 Slim, or PS5 Slim. This is not the first time I've heard something like that. So I do think this is totally possible. But we'll have to wait and see. Of course, the actual rest of the lawsuit, you know, there was a lot of stuff about PlayStation, and as part of the, right, another part of this was bringing in Nintendo, how the Nintendo Switch is dominating. I do not think they mentioned a Nintendo Switch Pro or a Nintendo Switch 2, but we will talk about some things that have happened in this week in a second. How I did not die, like, immediately there, I have no idea. But yeah, no, there's been a lot of stuff about it. But yeah, PlayStation, you can tell I'm kind of out of it tonight. It's been a long day. It's been a long, tired day, and we're starting later than I usually. Normally I would have started like an hour and a half ago. But Xbox, PlayStation, did Xbox lose the last console generation? Totally. Is PlayStation winning this current console generation? I don't know about that. I still stand, even though Xbox Game Pass did get raised $1 in price earlier this week, I still stand by it's one of the best deals in gaming. I'm still very impressed with Xbox Game Pass. Sure, has there been anything good on it recently? No, not really. I mean, there's been some, you know, every once in a while something good comes to it. There's been some good indie games, but, like, nothing, like, big recently, because Redfall was such a disappointment. But no, I still stand by. Xbox Game Pass is a great deal. I still really enjoy it. Not like I've had it for probably, not 6, maybe like 5 months. Yeah, something like that. So let's talk about the Nintendo stuff, because I'm clearly floundering. So right, there's been all these rumors about Switch Pro, right? When's the Switch Pro coming out? According to Nintendo, we're not getting anything until next year. But I guess on one of Nintendo's developer portals or something like that, supposedly on like one of Nintendo's developer portals, there is something labeled NX2. So it brings up the question: do developers have kits for this NX2? There was also recent talks about how, hey, when the Switch 2 does happen, Nintendo is working on seamless account integration, so that way your account that works on Nintendo Switch will work on this new console. Does that mean all of your games from Switch will carry over to the new console? We don't know. Obviously, we don't know. I would hope so, especially if they're just making a better Switch. That would be very nice, but who knows at this point? But that would be cool, you know, if you basically start off the Switches... Basically, if the new Switch is backwards compatible. And then, you know, the new console launches, and it's like, hey, guess what? We have new 4K updates for Pokemon... for Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. We have a 4K update for Breath of the Wild in Tears of the Kingdom. That would be really cool. Supposedly, according to someone who leaked the Scarlet and Violet DLC, and they were accurate. Like, it wasn't just some bullshit leak. Like, it was actually, like, an accurate leak. Like, they got all the names correct and everything. They claimed that the Switch Pro was happening in November. Because they were working on an updated version of Scarlet and Violet for the Switch Pro. Of course, we haven't seen anything yet, but that was one leaker's thing. And I totally believe that, yeah, if the Switch 2 is coming, that's something they're working on in the background. Just the bigger question is that November release date correct? And, like, Nintendo says no, don't expect anything this year. But you never know. The one thing I will say, though, is historically, if there was a Switch Pro coming... Let's say it's not a new console. Like, it's not, like, Switch 2, or it's not called the NX, or, right? If it wasn't a new console, just, like, an updated 4K Switch with, like, no new gimmick or anything, just the same Switch, just better, right? Like, basically going from, like, the 3DS to the new 3DS. Or going from the PS4 to the PS4 Pro. So think something like that. Like, you don't have to, like, there's no new priority system. It's not going to be a disc system. Just a new, better Switch that runs games better. Historically, if that were to be announced, it would be announced this week. Like, within the next, like, 7 days. Because in all the history of Nintendo, most of their console upgrades are announced the second week of July. And this goes back to, like, the 3DS XL. Because I want to say the 3DS XL was announced in, like, that July period and released in, like, August or September. The new Nintendo 3DS, same thing. It was announced then and released, like, a month later. Or released, like, a few months later. The Switch OLED was announced around this time. Was announced, I want to say, like, July 6th. And released and released in October. So if Nintendo Switch is going to announce something, specifically something that's coming out in October and November, they would announce it now. Now, this does also include new color variants of the Switch. Last year, everyone was talking about a Switch Pro rumor. And then, when that November 7th date came around, instead what was announced was not the Switch Pro, but was instead the Splatoon edition of the Nintendo Switch OLED. So, if we don't get a Switch Pro this week, there is the very distinct possibility that we get, like, a Super Mario Wonder version of the Nintendo Switch. Or maybe a Super Mario RPG Switch. I don't know. The one thing I will say is that I know Splatoon 3 came out in September, whereas Super Mario Wonder comes out in October, so they might wait until August to do it. But I think from here on out, it is a very distinct possibility that that could happen at any point from, like, today to, like, the next month. That we're going to get a new version, a new color scheme for the Switch. I do not care for new color schemes of the Switch, but I'm all aboard Pro controllers at the moment. Right? I've got my special Tears of the Kingdom Pro controller, and having, like, a Super Mario Wonder Pro controller that uses that, like, blue and pink color scheme we see in the Super Mario Wonder logo, and maybe has, like, some imagery on it, that would be very cool. I think a Super Mario Wonder Pro controller would be very cool. And, you know, they do a Pro controller, a carrying case, and a new model of the console. I think that could be announced anytime in the next month. Because, yeah, this is usually when Nintendo does things. So keep an eye out for that. And I'll tell you, I've called it... I know I'm being kind of vague on the date, but it's going to happen, in like, the next month. But yeah, I don't think we're getting a Switch Pro this year. It's just... You know, it would make sense. The Switch is, this is year 7? We're currently in year 7. And usually a console's lifespan is around 7 years. So it would make sense. I don't know. I know a lot of people saw the Nintendo Direct a few months ago. And were like, hey, guess what? The Switch doesn't really have that many games coming out soon. You know, maybe it's time to finally move on to the next Switch. And, like, they're right? There weren't that many insane things. But there was more than I expected. So I totally think that if they want to do the Switch Pro, or Switch 2, or whatever the fuck they call it, Super Switch. I don't love Super Switch like I loved Super 3DS. But if they want... It's better than new Nintendo Switch. By gosh, it's better than new Nintendo Switch. But if they want to do that... then I feel like the best time, especially if it's a brand new console and not just an upgrade, then I feel like that's going to happen in, they could have it out as early as March, and maybe do Metroid Prime 4 as a launch title. A lot of people would really love that. Or even announce a Mario Odyssey 2. So I could see that. So I do think they'll wait until next year. Because the two big games they have coming out at the end of the year, Mario Wonder and Super Mario RPG, well, Mario Wonder is a huge game. 2D Marios sell insanely well. Mario RPG, on the other hand, will probably sell better than it did on the SNES, but it's not going to light the world on fire. That's just kind of the Switch's thing, though. Is usually any game on the Switch is the best-selling game in their franchise. The only exception being Pokemon, which instead is like the second or third best-selling. And I could reasonably see Scarlet and Violet taking up the #1 slot. Totally reasonable. But... yeah, that's the console BS, you know. A lot of things happening. I don't know. It's just... I saw Kinda Funny earlier this week. In one of their shows, talk about how is this the best year in gaming. And, yeah, we've had some stinkers this year. Redfall, Forspoken, other shit I can't remember. But we've also had some really good games. I hear people are really enjoying Final Fantasy 16, even though I really have not heard that many people talk about it. Right? Like, I haven't heard that many people talk about Final Fantasy 16, but I guess the people who are talking about it do really like it. Except for that one. There's this one guy who was playing Tears of the Kingdom who was just so fed up with the game. I was seeing him on Twitter or TikTok, and he was just so annoyed. He hated the game. And you watched, and at the end, I guess he showed his, like, path, the path he took. Because, you know, they keep track of your path in the game. It's one of the upgrades you unlock. I don't remember what it's called. Like, your journey or something. He literally didn't explore, like, half of the map. He never strayed from the roads. Literally, he just followed the roads the entire game. It's kind of fucking abysmal, really, when you look at it. But yeah. But no, yeah, Tears of the Kingdom was great. We've got Starfield. We've got a big Xbox game, Starfield. We've got a big PlayStation game in Spider-Man. They have Tears of the Kingdom's already out. And you have Mario Wonder. Is this the best year in gaming? I mean, assuming Spider-Man and Starfield are good, I have faith in Spider-Man. I think Spider-Man will be good. Starfield, on the other hand, I hope it's fun. Assuming Starfield is fun, then yeah, I do think this will be the best year in gaming. Because the last best year in gaming was 2007, which, you know, gave us Mario Galaxy, BioShock, I want to say Oblivion, but it might have been Morrowind. One of the Elder Scrolls games. I want to say either GTA 4 or Red Dead Redemption. I kind of don't remember. I don't know. Look it up. 2007 is generally considered the best year in video games. And I think this year could top it. Which is crazy, because the modern console generation kind of fucking sucks. I mean, someone pointed out that there are more Pikmin games on Switch than there are exclusives on PS5. So, yeah. But no, I've been enjoying the... I mean, I've been enjoying the Switch. It's more everyone else that kind of fucking sucks. Especially, like, the third party. Like, God, I don't even talk about third parties. Yeah. So I guess let's move on to WIBE. So what have I been doing? So the one video game I played, outside of, you know, our Pikmin and Tears of the Kingdom, the one videos game I played was, A Little to the Left. So A Little to the Left, we talked about it earlier this year, we talked about it. It's a sort 'em up game where, you know, you're just going through cupboards and drawers and tons of other things like pictures and whatnot, and you're sorting things. And recently its DLC released, and it was like $5, and I was like, oh yeah, I like The Little to the Left, sure, I'll pick up its DLC. And so its DLC is called Cupboards and Drawers. So it's all about that aspect of the game. Because there are certain missions where it's like, hey, you're given like a junk drawer. Organize this junk drawer. Or you're given like a kitchen drawer. And you have to like organize all like the measuring cups and the spoons and whatnot. So they basically took that aspect of the game and expanded upon it even more. You know, more drawers and cupboards to organize. You have multi-level drawers now. And, you know, some of it's pretty easy. Some of it's... There's, at one point you have to do a bait and tackle box. Like, you know, for like fishing. And they give you this bait and tackle box. Or I think it's just called a tackle box. Whatever. And I just looked at it and was like, God, where do I even start with this? Like, there's so much going on here. Where do I even begin to organize this? So I was horrified. But I eventually figured it all out. I find the places for everything. And yeah, I do like the DLC. It doesn't have... Like, in the original game, there were these bullshit levels where you had to organize everything symmetrically. Where it's like, oh, if you have this purple flower on this side, then you have to have a purple flower at the exact same spot on the other side. And there's, like, no real correct answer as far as I can tell, as long as everything's symmetrical, which seems easy, but it kind of sucks. I'll be honest, I kind of hate those levels. There's none of those in this. They're all cupboards and drawers. Yeah, sometimes you do it, like, there was one where it's like, oh yeah, it's like a box in the middle, and it open, and like, there's stuff you can put in the middle, like, it was like a puzzle or like a board game, and then there are like puzzle pieces that you can put on like each side, like One side had a chess set. One side had like a bunch of buttons. And right, it was all about like how you organize it like that. There was one drawer, and like some puzzles have multiple solutions. So like there was one drawer where you had like a bunch of buttons. And you could either organize the buttons by color or by number of holes. I want to say I did number of holes. But right, there are some puzzles that have multiple solutions, and, you know, stuff happens if you get the multiple solutions. To be fair, that's how it worked in the original. It's basically just more levels like the original, but at least they focused on stuff I liked more. Right, the levels that, the cups in the drawer level, like, probably my favorite level in the original game was probably a drawer level. Couldn't tell you exactly which one it was, but it was one of them. You get a few more scenes with the cat, because there's a cat in this game, and it's kind of cute. It's a big, white, like, I think they're Persian cats, I don't know. But no, it's a fun little sort 'em up game, you know? Kind of like, it's kind of like Unpacking, but not like Unpacking. I've been thinking about playing Unpacking again. Yeah, you know, it's kind of like that. I feel like Unpacking, I mentioned Unpacking because I think Unpacking got more critical acclaim. But no, they're both good games. I think you can get both the game and the DLC for probably like $15. I might have bought it a little to the left on sale. I kind of don't remember. But no, it's a good game. And the DLC, I think, for like a $5 DLC was, yeah, pretty good. I definitely felt like there were more, for $5, there were enough levels that I felt like I got my money's worth. So I liked it. Oh, I did play another game. At some point, I had like a podcast or an audiobook or something to listen to. I don't remember what. I had something to listen to. And I was like, you know, I just need a game to like take like an hour. And then I remembered, hey, wait, didn't I buy Portal like a few weeks ago? So, and I know part of the fun of Portal is the story, right? GLaDOS, right? Hearing that, right? The cake is a lie and all that. So I basically just skipped over all of that and just speedran the game. And yeah, it took me like an hour. I listened to my podcast. I think it took me like a little more than like an hour. I want to say like I listened to my podcast and then I was like near the end of the game. Yeah, I was like like 1 or 2 levels before the final boss fight. So I beat the game. So I listened to my thing, beat the game, and then yeah. So yeah, I played through Portal. It's still a great game. I know people generally regard Portal 2 in higher praise, and I don't disagree with that. But there's something special, like Portal 1 is like uniquely like so tightly designed that there isn't like a single flaw in the game. It's one of the only like flawless games because it's just so tightly wound. It doesn't overstay its welcome, but it's not too short either. It's just a really well-made game. And yeah, I enjoyed it. I do at some point, I want to try, I know they released a mod for Portal 2 that added time travel. Like there was like a fan-made like, basically Portal 3 that added like a green portal that traveled between time zones, or not time zones, but like time periods. And that sounded really interesting, but I always kind of wanted to play it because I have Portal. Of course I have the games on PC. I got like all the PC Valve games for like $5 a few years ago. That's how I played Half-Life 1 and 2. No, actually, I think I owned Half-Life 1 longer than that. I don't know, the original Portal 2 I had on Xbox 360. That was where I played Portal 2 for the first time. I played the co-op with my brother. My parents are currently playing through It Takes Two. You know, that one game of the year a few years ago. And, oh my god. It's its own bag of laughs. So yeah, those were the 2 games I played. Yeah, I don't think, you know, we've been doing Pikmin. I've been enjoying Pikmin. I haven't touched, I know we played through New Super Mario Bros. but I just have had no interest in New Super Luigi U. Just none whatsoever. So, yeah. But, so, okay, so that's video games. What about other things? Well, so, I watched Solar Opposites. You know, the Justin Roiland, Mike McKay, I think it's Mike McKay. Their show on Hulu that's, you know, it's not Rick and Morty, but it's Solar Opposites. About the aliens. And I'd seen the first season. I'm sure we talked about it on... I've been streaming long enough that I'm sure we talked about it at the time. But I haven't really thought about it in a while. But recently I was like, you know what? I kind of want to know what happens to the wall people. Because that's the best part of the show. And I was like, I wonder what's going on in the wall. So you want me to tell you what's going... So, first season of the show, you find out one of the kids, Yumulak, is shrinking people down and putting them in the wall. So this one guy called Tim gets put in the wall, and you learn that the wall is like this dictatorship ruled by a guy called the Duke, and you know, everything's going pretty bad in the wall. So Tim eventually starts an uprising with a girl named, I want to say Sherry? And they eventually overthrow the Duke and discover that there's a hole in the wall. So that way people can escape. But Tim realizes that, oh, it's not safe outside the wall. We shouldn't let people escape. Right? They're all going to get eaten by owls or something like that. Like, that's a bad thing. So he kills Sherry in, like, the big twist, and he becomes ruler of the wall. And that's where season 1 ends. So in the second season, you pick up, there's one of the guys whose name I do not remember, has become, like, a hero of the wall. And now there's, like, a killer in the wall. Like, there's, like, a serial killer. And the wall has basically become a utopia, right? Everyone's living in peace. Under Tim's rulership, things are going great. So that's how it's, like, all set up. And it's like, okay, cool, right? Everything's going better in the wall. But now they've got this killer. They think it's a cricket, but it's obviously not. So Tim is so this one guy, whose name I don't remember, is helping out the cops. And he eventually figures out who the killer is. Turns out Tim has had this one guy doing runs outside of the wall to, like, get medical supplies and whatnot. But this guy is, like, crazy and thinks he's a god, so he's just been going around killing people. And the two guys who work for Tim, who used to work for the Duke, like the two cops, are dirty cops who, like, knew about the going on the wall. They kind of knew about the murder and everything. So they're, like, insanely flawed. And so Tim, when he finds out about the murder, he's like, I'm gonna let the two cops go, but the murderer needs to be punished. And then Tim kills all three of them, the cops and the murderer, with magic shell. And then he tells the war hero that, like, hey, if you want to tell everyone that there's a hole in the wall, go on, tell them. If you don't, then don't. Right? I'm leaving it entirely up to you. And so he decides not to tell them, and instead just say, like, oh yeah, we caught the murderer, it was a cricket. And then at the end of season 2, twist, it turns out Sherry is alive. That even though Tim pushed her out the hole in the back of the wall, somehow she survived. So that's where season 2 ends. Season 3 then gets into Sherry's back. She talks to the war hero. We learn what happened to Sherry outside of the wall. That she ended up meeting up with the Duke. They survived for a little bit, but eventually the Duke was killed by, like, a possum or something. Sherry was pregnant with Tim's baby. But then, and yeah, so she's pregnant. She spends 9 months walking across the backyard with the hopes of going to, like, a Walgreens. But then they find out it's just a billboard to the Walgreens. So she eventually comes back. She gives birth to a baby named Pesley. Who, because, you know, she was born in a Pez dispenser. So, yeah, because she almost gets eaten at one point. But, so they eventually make it back. She comes back to the wall, and that's where she meets up with him. And her whole goal is to overthrow Tim and give the people of the wall the freedom, right? Tell them that, hey, there's an escape hatch. Tim has been lying to you. So then, like, so that all happens in, like, episode 1 or 2. So, like, 2 episodes late, like, in episode, like, 3 or 4, called Hulu Land. You know that episode of Rick and Morty where it's, like, the Ricklantis mix-up? Where Rick and Morty are like, we're going to Atlantis. And then the episode isn't about that at all. Yeah, there's a Solar Opposites episode called, like, Hulu Land, where they're going to, Hulu Land. Oh, we've got a ride based on only murders in the building. We've got a ride based on The Handmaid's Tale. Just Hulu shows. Because, again, it's a show on... Like, Rick and Morty is not subtle and, like, constantly kisses the ass of the network. Same thing here. Right? They're kissing Hulu's ass. So, but the second they leave for Hulu Land, right, as that's going on, Sherry and the one guy raid Tim's office. Tim's going a little crazy, like he's been poisoned by lead. Because he's got one of those collectible Burger King cups that was, like, lead poisoned. So he's tripping out. But then, so, right, they capture him, they take him back to, like, this church where their, like, hideout is. And then he wakes up the next day and reveals that he's actually been planning their escape. That they're gonna get, that once they leave to Hulu Land, they'll be able to get out because all the aliens are gone. Then they just have to find the shrink ray, reverse it, and they'll be able to escape. So Tim and Sherry run off. They get out because, like, a milk dud gets stuck in the food vending slot thing. They escape. They find the shrink ray. They grow themselves back up. There's, like, a weird, like, time thing where, like, time passes weirdly. Also, Tim doesn't want to know, like, Sherry's like, hey, Tim, I have something to tell you, because, it's his baby. But he's like, no, we'll save that until later. They, like, go to try to tell the cops, but the cops aren't able to arrest the aliens at Hulu Land. And then, eventually, I don't know, because they can't free people from the wall, because the wall is, like, password protected, or, like, thumbprint protected. But eventually, they get the aliens, hold them hostage, get them to open the wall, beat them up, free everyone from inside the wall, and then it's like, oh, it's gonna happen, right? They free everyone from the wall, then Tim stays behind, shrinks the aliens, and puts them inside the wall. And it's like, oh, this is gonna be the ending to the, right, this great ending, right? Now the aliens are stuck in the wall, the people are free, it looks like Sherry and Tim's going to get together again. There's this weird element where it's like when they're growing everybody, they don't grow the baby. And I'm like, why aren't they saying anything about the baby? That was my first hint that something was wrong. Because as it turns out, this entire flashback sequence, or this entire sequence with, like, them escaping the wall and finding right away to get everybody out, it was all a fucking dream. Yep, they do the, it's, they do the whole, it's a dream, and it's Tim's dream as he dies of lead poisoning. And the episode ends with him dying of lead poisoning. And yep, they burn his body, and that's it. And it's like, fuck me. Like, they actually, I think, did have a good ending. But by revealing it's all a dream, it's like, okay, that just ruined it. I'm not gonna say that ruins the show or anything, but I'm like, god damn it, really? Because, of course, it's too simple to give us a satisfying ending. So, yeah, that all happened. And then from there, Sherry, everyone wants Sherry to be the leader of the wall now that she's revealed herself. She tells everyone about the hole in the wall, and is like, hey, if you want to leave, you can leave. And they eventually decide that, oh, Sherry's not going to be the leader. Instead, they're gonna, like, democratically elect, like, a council or something like that. So they do that, and Sherry gets elected. Then we get, like, the big thing, which is the power goes out. Right? They lose power in the wall, and so everyone's now going to die in the wall, right? They're running out of food. They're running out of tons of other things. So they're stuck between, do we go down and fix the power? Because it's down in, like, the lower levels that have been, like, destroyed and flooded. Or do they all escape? So Sherry, the hero, and a few other people decide to go down. They end up coming across muck people that are cannibals. But they eventually find their way through and are able to get power back in the wall. Until they get attacked by mosquitoes. Because of all the... So at the end in the first season, the Duke floods the lower levels of the wall, killing a bunch of people. And so, the lower levels, because there's water everywhere, they've been infested with mosquitoes. And, the mosquitoes can drink a person dry in, like, a second, because, they're tiny. So that's a thing, and Sherry wants to kill all the mosquitoes because she wants to keep her daughter safe. Eventually, it just ends up... They find out there's a guy who's been hunting mosquitoes, and he's been using them for food to, like, make jerky. And he's like, hey, we can farm the mosquitoes as, like, a renewable fuel source. Right? It's better, it's more... It's, it's better than, like, vegetables because it's more reliable. And there's higher product yield. And Sherry's like, nope, I refuse to do this. The war hero guy is like, no, when does it end? Hey, if you don't stop here, then where do you stop? How far do you keep going? Because your child will never truly be safe. And eventually, he leaves, but then later on, he comes back to help her when she almost dies. It's very kind of plot convenient, honestly. That's like their Deus Ex Machina of him coming back in to save her. But eventually they get down to the lower levels with the mosquitoes. And in the first season, there was this guy who was like the former CEO of AT&T, who was now just living like a simple life as like a farmer. And he had a pet rat. But the guy, I don't remember what happens to him in the first season, but the rat, I remember his pet mouse, rat, whatever, died. So now we see him again here, and he's been, like, melted into a salmonella candle, and he's been, he's taking control of the mosquitoes. And he plans on marching his army across the upper levels to kill everybody. Like, he's got this big plan. But Sherry, eventually, they're able to, like, unleash spiders and stop him. I want to say the guy dies. The, war hero dies. That sounds right in my head. He dies saving her, but she's able to escape. And then she gets up to the surface level and finds out that the nuns who run the church... the church worships, like, and, like, the alien family, they worship the daughter as, like, a god who gives them food. And basically the people of the church have taken the baby and are like, oh, this is our prophet, right? The one given to us by, I think it's Jesse, right? The prophet of the new age. And so they're like, no, this isn't Sherry's baby. This is, all of our babies. Because, it's the miracle child. And so the last time we see the wall in the season is with the baby being, like, with Sherry being dragged away, and the baby is, like, branded. And it's like, oh, shit. So, yeah, that's the wall in Solar Opposites. It is the best part of the show. It only happens, like, every, like, 2 or 3 episodes, and they usually get one wall-focused episode per season. I think we get 2 this season, admittedly. I think we get 2 wall-focused episodes in the 3rd season. But yeah, I definitely feel like doing the full fake-out happy ending definitely takes some of the steam out of it. Especially with them, right, killing off Tim like that from lead poisoning. Because it's basically every season of The Wall follows a different character. The first season follows Tim. The second season follows the war hero. Third season follows Sherry. But yeah, after the fake out kind of loses me some. The other stuff with the aliens are whatever. There's some funny jokes. There are some very unfunny jokes. It really just depends on the episode. Fine. There was one point where you find out that basically every other Slorpian died with their pupa, so like they're the only ones left with pupas. And then that turns out to be a fake out as well, because it was the past generation. And as it turns out, the planet that they're on has blown up like 100 times. And there are these silver cops that basically treat Slorpians like parasites that just spread across the galaxy, so the silver cops try to stop them. And then there's a whole episode focused on the silver cops, which just isn't that interesting. And basically the silver cops are like Green Lanterns, but then you find out there's like the silver cops are evil, and because they're cops, of course they're evil. So you find out, right, the silver cops are of course evil because they are cops, but there's gold. It looks like there are gold cops that are maybe trying to like check the silver cops, and this one guy gets framed for the murder of the gold cop, and the one like human, but they're cops. They're fucking pigs, who are evil. It's a decent enough reveal because they're framing them as Green Lanterns, and then actually, the reveal that no, the cops are actually evil because of course they're cops. And I was like, yeah, that's not bad. But the rest of the episode was kind of whatever. Yeah, most of the episodes are just they've got some funny jokes, they've got some unfunny jokes. Of course, we've got the trailer for the new season, where we find out Corvo, who's played by Justin Roiland, has been recast, and we'll see how that goes. I'm trying to think of any memorable moments from the either two seasons. I know one of the kids does a whole thing about big dick energy, and he gets too big of a dick, and that like almost kills him. I remember that. They do betting. I remember at one point the two kids are doing betting on and they do like a Teen Wolf. I remember Corvo starts melting into goo at one point. I do like another thing that I do like is because the aliens are two guys living together, and it's like, oh well, they're teammates, they're crew members, but every once in a while they'll remind you that no, they are actually in a gay relationship, that no, they are hooking up. The one alien whose name I'm forgetting, Corvo, Yumulak, Jesse, and whatever his name is, you find out the pupa specialist, he's dating another guy, and they like try to go back to hit, and there's a whole thing with that. It's not Brian Boltano. I don't remember who it is. It's an author whose name I'm just completely blanking on right now. As you can tell, the alien stuff isn't. It's whatever. Now, would the show as a whole be better if it was just the wall? I don't know about that. Maybe, but also maybe not. Part of it, the scarcity of the wall segments make it better in theory. Because, they're not always like guaranteed per episode. There was a Christmas special where they basically Ready Player One a bunch of Christmas episodes, and they fucking hate the movie Jingle All the Way, and it like ruins their Christmas spirit. There's a Halloween episode where they create an Are You Afraid of the Dark style Crypt Keeper. And whatever. And they fucking AI it by leaving out in the woods. What else? What else do I remember? There's other shit that happens. I clearly don't remember. I remember Corvo starts sending like time mail to scare the other one, the pupa specialist, into being like a responsible crew member, but he takes it too far and turns him into a serial killer. And then he dies. Oh, there's one episode where they all die, where the pupa the pupa's like, they have like this little pet pupa, and it's like changing colors. And at one point it changes colors where it's all gonna like kill them, and then it's gonna eat their corpses for nutrients. So they spend like an entire episode like finding fulfillment in life, and then learn that if they just kill each other, then they can be then the last one standing will be fulfilled. You know, Highlander rules. There's a whole thing with the pupa. So the pupa's like a child, but there was an episode where like the pupa's like pretending to be like a normal guy. I want to say it's the one where the guy's melting. It's something like that, and he's pretending to be like a normal guy in like a human suit, who's like dating this rich guy's daughter, and like he's like the CEO of the company, but you know he doesn't want his daughter to end up with this guy, and it turns out the entire reason he's doing all of it is to get a lifetime supply of basically like cheese puffs, like you know like cheese puffs in a can. And then you find out that the pupa specialist was in on it the whole time. There's another one where the pupa is acting like a teenager, and so they end up getting in the season finale. They end up getting in this big fight with the pupa, and it turns into fog and creates all these monsters. And then the teacher, I think, explains that like, oh, the pupa's struggling because of you guys. If you were to just live normal lives, then the pupa wouldn't have these problems. So the season 3 ends with them getting like boring desk jobs just to make the pupa happy. And I know that's where we're picking up in season 4, because the one clip they've released has them in like their boring desk job outfits. That, you know, they hate their jobs, but they love the pupa, so they're gonna keep doing it. Oh, there's a whole episode where you find out that, so there's, like, a bunch of people who have that they've wronged, you know, because they like to shoot, like, rays at people to, like, fuck with them. And so there's, like, this pig that's trying to, like, sue them for, like, creating him. And it turns out that, no, it's all the people they've wronged created this pig and, like, framed them to try to get them arrested. And they do get arrested, and in jail they get, like, gloves with like fire ants in them, like the most painful fire ant in existence. But you know, a bunch of people still die. They throw a house party at one point. I don't remember how that ends. They go to Britain and they find out that even though they always describe the planet as like a perfect utopia, as it turns out there were a bunch of like rich assholes who escaped the planet like a month before everybody else, and one of those rich assholes had been living here on Earth, but Corvo is jealous because they're more like religious and more of like a proper space crew, and he wants to be more like that. And I legitimately think I've got I mean, I'm sure there's one or two things I'm missing, but I more or less got everything. It's a weird fucking show, but yeah. Oh god, I talked about that for like half an hour. Okay, so I watched The Ghost and Molly McGee. That was another thing. Like, last week sometime, that got a bunch of new episodes on Disney+. I think it's like 5 or 6. So I sat down and I watched those. So let's talk about those, shall we? If I can freaking find them. God, so much Shark Week stuff on here. So the first one was all of... Let's see, there was... Oh, okay. So the first one was all about this, like, haunted doll, right? Scratch to punish this criminal, goes to trap him inside, like, a bottle or something, but he ends up getting trapped inside a haunted doll, and, like, Molly's, like, you know, trying to, like, redeem him, and then it works, but it turns out she's scared. She's horrified by haunted dolls, but then the haunted doll ends up getting picked up by the Addams Family. Like, they literally have an Addams Family parody. And, like, it ends up going... Because, you know, they like the haunted doll and everything. And it's like, okay, that's kind of cute, I guess. I don't know. It was a whatever episode. The other episode, on the other hand... is it the afterlife of the party? So, Scratch is hanging out in the ghost world. And he gets invited to a party by a guy named Jeff. Jeff. But at the same time... He's also been invited to a party by his best friend, Geoff, Jeff. So I'm just going to call them G Jeff and J Jeff. And so he wants to go to J. Jeff's party because J. Jeff seems really cool. But he's already agreed to go to G. Jeff's party. So he ends up pretending to be sick and has Molly cover for him while he sneaks away to J. Jeff's party. And he's having a blast at J. Jeff's party. One of the ghosts catches on to what's really going on and like tries to get him exposed. Because as it turns out, G. Jeff is... Because G. Jeff is originally feeling guilty that like he's partying without his best friend. Meanwhile, Scratch is trying to have fun at J. Jeff's party. And it turns out that G. Jeff is at J. Jeff's party. So Scratch is originally trying to hide from him, but eventually he does get caught. And G. Jeff is like, oh, hey, I can't believe you actually made it. I'm so glad you're here. But in a moment, like, Scratch feels guilty, so he admits to G. Jeff that no, he ditched his party for J. Jeff's party. But G. Jeff and J. Jeff's party were the same party because it's their 100-year anniversary party. Yep, as it turns out, G. Jeff and J. Jeff are married, as they have been for 100 years. And they are the cutest fucking couple in the world. I like, G. Jeff's a lot of fun, but J. Jeff is a great addition to his character. Because he's this big, buff guy. But he will, like, murder anybody who fucks with G. Jeff. And, like, at the end, like, G. Jeff forgives Scratch. And then he goes off, and J. Jeff, like, is like, hey, if you ever hurt my love again, I will destroy you. And it's like, oh, I really like J. Jeff. And basically throughout the rest of the through the next, like, 5 episodes, anytime G. Jeff shows up, J. Jeff also shows up. And I really like J. Jeff. So yeah, I think having J. Jeff here was a great addition. He's a great... Like, I was kind of worried about when they added in the Ghost Hunter Shens and Ollie, who was basically just gender-swapped Molly. And I was like, I don't really know how to feel about these characters. J. Jeff, on the other hand, I think is a fantastic addition. Because he's also basically just an right? G. Jeff is kind of dumpy, while J. Jeff is really fit. But I think he makes an excellent counter to G. Jeff, while also, you know, being, like, serious and kind, sweet and kind-hearted. So I really like J. Jeff. I think J. Jeff and G. Jeff are great. So yeah, that was that episode. The next episode is the Halloween episode, which this was released a while ago, but it only got added to Disney Plus like this week. So the Halloween episode is, right, Molly is throwing a haunted house to raise money for charity, but her haunted house is lame. So Scratch invites a bunch of ghosts to, like, make the haunted house scarier, and it works, and everybody's loving it. You know that one episode of My Little Pony where they have to teach the princess that, like, hey, sometimes people like being afraid. That's kind of this episode where Scratch and Molly have to teach Ollie that, like, you know, sometimes people like being scared by ghosts. And yeah, people are having a great time at his haunted house. Tons of people from, like, previous episodes all show back up in this one to, like, you know, scare the humans. But Ollie and the rest of his family, the ghost hunters, are like, oh, we can sense a bunch of paranormal activity here. We've got to go investigate and capture all the ghosts. Of course, Ollie himself knows about Scratch and is, like, suspicious of Molly's being, like, mind-controlled or something along those lines. So he captures Scratch. Eventually, he interrogates Scratch and realizes that, no, they actually are just friends. That there's nothing, like, malicious going on here. That ghosts themselves aren't evil. And eventually, like, the Frightmares, which are, like, the evil ghosts, do show up. And they're eventually able to trap them in the Phantom Thermos from Danny Phantom. And so, yeah, all's end that well's well. It looks like while the rest of his family isn't on their side yet, Ollie himself is. Ollie's, like, cool with this. Right, well, he's learning, but it's a start, right? He lets Scratch go and understands that him and Molly are close. So yeah, it's actually a really good episode. I do like it. It's fun, it's funny. And yeah, it ends with this big climactic thing. The next episode is there's a old Blockbuster video that's being haunted by this ghost, who her unfinished business is that she has a late fee. So they have to help her get her late fee paid off. And yeah, it all's well that ends well there. We find out there's like the ghost, they basically form their own Ghostbusters that, you know, instead of busting ghosts, they're the ghost friends. And so it's Molly, Ollie, Libby, and Scratch. And yeah, it's a fine episode. Ollie is questioning his place on the team, that like, does he really belong here? But you know, all's well that ends well. The other part of the episode, so it's Molly questioning her identity. Because, you know, she's got this, it literally says in the description, Molly explores her biracial identity. Because she's... Oh my god, I'm gonna pick the wrong country. Is she from... I don't want to get this wrong, give me a second. She is from Thailand. I thought so, I just didn't want to get it wrong. Yeah, she's from Thailand. Or her family is, you know, her grandparents emigrated. This is the episode where we get to meet her uncle. And Molly's big fear is that she's not Thai enough. You know, even though she's half Thai, right, because her dad's white. She doesn't speak the language, she can't handle spicy food. And then her uncle and her cousin come into town. And, you know, they're way more Thai than she is. Even her dad's makes a joke at one point in Thai, and admits that he's been practicing it for months now. And I relate to this episode so hard, because I'm Hispanic. And, you know, I've wondered myself, like, am I Hispanic enough? I don't, because, you know, over years and living in America, well, again, technically my family's been here since before this land was America, but semantics, right? America has eliminated the Spanish language. Going to school in white America, right, they don't want kids speaking Spanish. And so over time, I see the fallout from my grandparents who fully speak it, to my father who kind of speaks it, to me who just took a few Spanish classes in high school and college and can barely speak it. I actually, listening to it, I understand it better than I actually do speak it. Like, listening, I understand a lot more, but semantics. So I totally relate to this episode. Same thing with the spicy food. I cannot handle spicy Mexican food, whereas the rest of my family totally loves that stuff. You know, every once in a while there's an exception, but that's the exception rather than the rule. So no, I 1000%. Even though they're talking about different cultures, I 1000% relate to this. No, I think this was a great episode. And at the end, having the mother come in and be like, oh, sometimes I don't feel Thai enough. Even having the grandma come in and be like, you know, my sister who didn't leave Thailand, sometimes I wonder if compared to her, I'm not Thai enough. I don't know, we just got off of Elemental a few weeks ago, and that also kind of brought up that question in some parts, with Ember being like, oh yeah, we're from Fireland. But the father doesn't, you know, he doesn't feel like it enough sometimes. Because, you know, he left his family behind to start a new life in a new city. Elemental was really good. You know, we're going to talk about another animated movie this week. And in like a little bit, but I would totally recommend Elemental before it. I'd recommend Spider-Verse before Elemental. But, like, you can only see Spider-Verse like 10 times. Okay, you can see it way more than that. I've seen it like 2 or 3. But, no, I seriously do like Elemental. I guess this week it actually made more money at the box office than it did last week. So I'm glad, through word of mouth, more and more people are starting to see that movie. Because it is good. It's just Disney marketed that movie awfully. But yeah, no, that was... The Thailand episode was great. Right? 100% Molly McGee. The next episode, Like Father, Like Libby, is all about Libby's dad. I don't remember if they've mentioned him up to this point. I just kind of assumed he was dead. But no, you find out Libby's dad is alive. And he sends Libby a letter being like, hey, can we meet up? Guess what? I finally finished my book. Because, you know, Libby's mother runs a bookstore. Libby herself wants to be an author one day. And her dad is. So we find out her dad's an author. But the entire time, her mom is like, oh, we shouldn't be doing this. Like, I'll take you to see your dad. But you should be prepared for, you should be prepared to be let down. But, you know, she's going to be there. She's going to be supportive of her daughter. Of course, Libby has like, oh, we're going to make up for lost time when I see him again. And then when she meets him, nope, he gives her a copy of his book. And she's like, oh, can we start making up for lost time? And he's like, no, I've got to start. The publisher wants to make a trilogy. I've got to start writing the next one. And so, yeah, she just leaves disappointed. And she has a good cry with her mom, and it's a really good episode. I don't know. I think of, in Stephen King's book on writing, he talks at one point about how writing does not support a family. Family supports writing. Right? He talks about his desk. Right? How he used to have this monster of a desk that, you know, used to take up an entire room. But he's realized that, no, that's wrong. Instead, your desk should just be a little thing in a corner. That, right, when you go and you watch football with your kids, and then after that, you know, maybe you write after that. But a desk should, right, a big room is for family. Desks should just be in the corner. It's a good book. I know Zin Pencil made a comic about that segment, and I recommend looking it up. But no, that's what this reminds me of. Is that, like, oh, he's dedicated his life to writing, left his wife and his child behind. And yeah, it's a great episode. The other part of that episode is about the dad. The other part of the episode is not as good. It's about the dad getting famous on TikTok, because originally he wants people to, like, recycle, and he wants to ban plastic bags, but nobody will listen to him. But then he gets famous on TikTok, or they call, you know, whatever their parody name is. And so he's like, oh, well, now, right, I can use this platform to spread my message. But, you know, over time, it becomes less and less about his message, and more about him just being, like, you know, a famous dad on TikTok. So that's what that one was about. It ends with, like, an intervention, but it really just kind of flounders out. It's whatever. And then the final episode of the set release so far starts off with Ghost Shark. So a few episodes ago in the Haunted Video Store one, there's a Ghost Shark movie on in the background. So in this episode, the kids actually want to watch the Ghost Shark movie, and they do it while their parents are out on date night. And the ghost shark scares them so much. And Scratch like, there's no such thing as ghost sharks. So he uses his Ghost Lord powers to summon a ghost shark. And then it starts, like, attacking them. Because, right, he doesn't think they're real. And then the twist at the end of the episode is that, no, Scratch actually created the ghost shark using his powers. And it just does whatever he says. And they make, basically, a cute ghost shark. You know, kind of like your Blowhighs or your Jeff the Land Shark. Something cute like that. And yeah, that's where the episode ends. It's whatever. The other half is the grandma. After suffering a fall, she comes to move in with the family. And they're just being way too clingy. They're, like, constantly watching her. And they're giving her no space. So eventually she runs away. I haven't said it yet, but the music is great. Again, I was surprised to learn Rob Cantor is the one doing the music, who I think of as the actual Cannibal Shia LaBeouf guy, but I know he does other stuff other than that. I want to say, it's not Tally Hall, Is it Hawaii 2? Is Hawaii 2 Tally Hall? Whatever. It's something in that sphere. But yeah, he does the music for the show. The music throughout all these episodes is pretty good. And yeah, this the Grandma Nin, eventually she escapes from the family. She meets up with all the other old people in town and ends up deciding that, oh, she wants to be close to her family, but they're being too close. So instead she's going to move into the old folks' home in town. Which, the show has some fun old folks. The part of the one with the dad being selfish, is that he's ignoring the old people, and then the old lady break dances because dance video. So yeah. So overall, another 5 episodes. The Libby one is really good. The Molly McGee, 100% Molly is really good. And the Halloween episode was fun. I didn't mention, G and J Jeff show up basically, I think, at least once in every episode. And, for each 22-minute episode, 11-minute, 22-minute episodes, they each show up in once in each of them. And so they're fun. Yeah, I still think it's a good show. It's nothing, it hasn't blown my mind or anything, but I still really do like it. And yeah, I think J Jeff was a great addition to the cast, and I'm glad he's showing up. I'm glad he's not just a one-off thing. They're like, oh yeah, he get introduced in this episode, and he's going to show up basically anytime G Jeff shows up. So yeah, that's that. Anything else with Ghost of Molly McGee? No, I guess not. So another show, the new Superman show, My Adventures with Superman, finally started releasing. It's releasing on Adult Swim. I want to say it was originally supposed to be on HBO Max or whatever, but then HBO Max canceled it or whatever, but Adult Swim picked it up. Because I'll be honest, if you had asked me a year, because I remember when the show was announced, and I was like, oh, that looks interesting. An anime-inspired Superman. Okay, cool. And then we didn't hear anything about it, other than, I think, the voice casting. Because, it's... Oh, God, I'm forgetting the actor's name. It's the guy who plays Huey in The Boys. Who's, Barry in the show Barry. It's him as Superman. And I think that's great casting. But other than that, we really haven't heard anything else about this show in a while. And if you had asked me a year ago, I would have said it had been canceled. But no, it eventually got picked. It was, but then it got picked up by Adult Swim, and they're making a season. And so far, we have the first 2 episodes. So I'm not going to say this is a Superman and Lois rom-com. There is a Superman and Lois show on CW. I hear it's not bad, actually. That it is one of the better interpretations of Superman that we've had in the modern day. Because, we're living in a post-Zack Snyder, post-New 52 world. And really, that kind of kills all your hopes for Superman. Because Man of Steel fucking sucks. Zack Snyder does not get Superman. Honestly, most people don't get Superman. And then the New 52 is just fucking awful. Don't even get me started on New 52, Doomsday Clock. I don't even know where to begin. There's so much to talk about there. But, every once in a while, something comes along where it's no, this is a good Superman, or at least a decent, better than Zack Snyder. And this is one of those things where I'm this is better than Zack Snyder. This is better than, this reminds me of the Superman I love. God damn it. I'm trying to find out this guy's name. It's... So the basic setup of this show is that, hey, guess what? It's Superman. He's just moved to Metropolis, or, maybe he's been a little bit. It's him, his roommate Jimmy Olsen, and they've got an internship at the Daily Planet. Another intern is Lois Lane. So it's hey, what are we gonna do? And Lois Lane, you know, wants to be this big-time reporter. She wants to go out. She wants to break news stories. She's got this one story about stolen weapons, but, you know, Perry White won't let her do it. So she sneaks off with Clark and Jimmy. Jimmy Olsen's a conspiracy theorist, which is, you know, a whole thing. I don't want him to be a Ronaldo, but it's something like that. It's fucking Bill Hader. There we go. I'm pretty sure it's Bill Hader as Superman. God, I hope I'm right about that. Oh, it's Jack Quaid as Superman. Okay. I thought it was Bill Hader. Wait, is Jack Quaid the guy on? Oh, Jack Quaid is Huey? I thought Bill Hader was Huey. I don't know how I'm getting them mixed up. Huh. Okay, so I knew it was the guy from The Boys. I just thought he was Bill Hader, not Jack Quaid. What fucking whatever. I don't care anymore. I knew it was the guy from fucking The Boys. Either way, so Jack Quaid's, he does a great job as Superman. Oh god, I feel like I'm all over the place right now. But yeah, so the show is very anime inspired. We have the first 2 episodes, and literally in the second episode, they give Superman a Sailor Moon transformation. And you know, when he gets his super suit, at first I was worried because they did the Man of Steel thing where he doesn't have the red pants. But then no, the mom looks at the suit and is like, it's missing something. And adds the red, like, underwear shorts. And it's like, no, that's a great looking suit. I am pro red shorts Superman. I know some people don't like it. Again, a majority of people don't get Superman. But hey, maybe this is a small step towards people actually getting it. I don't know, I feel like Kill Bill did irreversible damage on the general culture's understanding of Superman. Whatever. But yeah, so I'm liking this show. We're 2 episodes in, and yeah, I do like it. I like Clark Kent, I like Lois Lane. I think they have chemistry, and they are very cute together, you know, those little moments where he, like, picks her up to try to lift her over a fence, and they have their little meet cute. Or we see in the second episode, or in the preview for the 3rd episode, she, like, runs into him and just gets fully buried in his chest. And it's like, oh, that's cute, you know, look at them. Oh, they're so cute together. I've seen a lot of people compare Lois Lane's design to Luz, you know, Luz Noceta from the Owl House. And you're not wrong, but, like, I don't have a problem with that. I feel like it's a good design anyways. And yeah, they're really good together. I guess that makes Superman Amity. And yeah, I have no problem with that. Jimmy Olsen is another ginger character who's been turned black, but, you know, to be fair, this is like the 3rd time that's happened. So at this point, you know, whatever. I guess Jimmy Olsen is just... Yeah, sure. Again, when I say, like, people don't get Superman, changing Jimmy Olsen's race is not one of those things, right? I have no problem with him being black or ginger or whatever. Same thing with Lois Lane. I've seen one adaptation that made Lois Lane Asian, and I thought that was great. But that's a whole other thing for another. That's a whole other story for another time. But no, I like the characters. In this we see in the first episode, Clark's like, you know, even though, you know, he's had his powers his entire life, he doesn't know everything about them. I saw, one of those fucking Schneider bros on Twitter was complaining. They're like, oh, Superman's at least 20, but he's acting like a 10-year-old with his powers. Shut the fuck up, you Zack Snyder bitch boy. I'm fine with him not fully getting his powers. This being like his first year. I like that he doesn't start off the series with a costume, right? Like, I love in American Alien, a comic I recommend you read, Superman American Alien, where the first version of his Superman costume is made using a Batman's cowls. That's really neat. That's a neat idea. Because, you don't get the perfect costume on the first try. And in this one, right, he's using a Dark Worker's costume, or a Dock Worker's outfit as a costume. They do a thing where his eyes, like, glow blue, which, okay, again, Schneider Bros complaining about that, but turns out it actually is a reference to the comics. Yep, as it turns out, his eyes glowing blue is a comic reference. But I like it, because so often these adaptations make Superman's eyes red, right? Like, oh, Superman, Zack Snyder, Superman wants to be big and scary? Oh, we're gonna make his eyes red, right, to show how he's angry. This one, meanwhile, oh, we want to show Superman getting his powers. We're gonna make his eyes glow blue and have, like, sparks of electricity shooting off of him. I actually really like that. As, like, changes go to, like, show that power, I think it's actually a good idea. I'm all aboard with it. And then in the second episode, he gets his costume. They do something I never really think about. But, when Superman first, learns about Krypton, the people on Krypton must speak, they speak Kryptonian. They speak a different language. I know there's one of the animated movies has Supergirl show up on Earth and only speak Krypton, right? She doesn't understand English. But in this, right, we see them uncover Clark's, like, the pod he showed up in, and his father only speaks Kryptonian. But Clark's only grown up speaking English. He doesn't understand Kryptonian. That's a good idea. I like that. That's cool. So I'm all aboard that. That was a great thing where he doesn't understand his father, but he gets a super suit. He heads back to Metropolis, where he fights Elektra. Yep, Leslie Wilson is our first villain of the show. And, she's the one who stole the giant robots, she stole the weapons, and now she's got, like, this gear that, gives her electric powers. They don't do, like, the typical, like, bright blue Elektra. They're a lot more, like, conservative with it. But I'm fine with it. I think it looks fine. She's got, like, these, like, blue veins running throughout her, and she does kind of turn more blue when she, like, fully uses her powers. So, at the start of the scene with her, she's talking to this one guy, and it's like, oh yeah, you want the stuff from me? Right? Oh, let's make a deal. Oh, I've planted bombs under the city, blah, blah, blah. And at first when I saw this guy, I'm like, at first I was like, oh, are they working with Lex Luthor? And then you find out, no, they're actually working with Amanda Waller. They're setting up Task Force X. So, like, because I guess I saw in an interview after I watched the episode that I guess the showrunners were told, hey, maybe let's save off on Lex Luthor for a little bit. So, yeah, they're not rushing to Lex Luthor. And I actually kind of like that, because I feel like sometimes Lex Luthor is the only supervillain that they kind of like. It'd be like, imagine if every Batman adaptation only used the Joker. Sometimes I feel like every Superman adaptation only uses Lex Luthor. Right? The Christopher Reeve Superman movies, for example. There are 4 of them. And Lex Luthor is, I think, the main villain in all 4 of them. No, Zod is the villain in the second one. I know Lex Luthor is there somewhere in those. I know he's the main villain of Superman 4. The Quest for Peace. That and Nuclear Man. God, Superman 4 sucks. I don't really remember Superman 3 at all. The one, is it Richard Pryor's in that one? Yeah, I don't remember Superman 3 at all. Yeah, so I guess the only Superman villains that get used are Zod and Lex Luthor. Like, we've never seen Parasite. We've never seen Metallo. We've never seen... I'm struggling to think of another Volcania. Boom, there's another one. I'll think. I need more time, but I can think of more. But no, it's good to see start off with Livewire, and then I didn't find this out. I didn't notice this when watching the episode, but it was pointed out to me on TikTok that the guy she's talking to, this like pretty boy guy, is fucking Deathstroke. Yeah, the other guy, the guy who's working for Amanda Waller, who at the end of the episode is interviewing Leslie. Fucking Deathstroke. Slade. Yep, Slade. They turned Slade Wilson from a grizzled old man into a fucking anime dark Negamoon pretty boy. You know, one of the villains from Sailor Moon. Yeah. And the other... Okay, so that's... Like, I definitely did not notice it at all. Then, that same video that pointed out that it's Slade also pointed out that, as part of his design... Because, you know, Slade wears a mask where it's like one side is all black and the other side is orange that only shows one eye. At least in Teen Titans, which is probably... Maybe... I don't know if it's his most famous appearance, but it's the one I know the best. That and when he kicks everyone's ass in Identity Crisis. Yeah. But they make his hair in this version cover one of his eyes. You never see Slade's other eye because instead of being covered by a mask, it's covered by his hair. And I'm just like, okay, that's actually kind of clever. No, I kind of like that. So yeah, it turns out Slade, and they're setting up Task Force X. I'll be honest, that's the other thing I do definitely feel like is being overused in the modern day DC, is Amanda Waller. Like, I get it. Marvel has Nick Fury. They have their Avengers. But why do we need so much fucking Amanda Waller in DC? Like, I get Marvel has it. Nick Fury's a pretty important character. But Amanda Waller, like, I get it. She works for the government. She's not entirely evil. She can be, but not entirely. And the actress whose name I'm forgetting does a great job at playing her in the Suicide Squad movies. Like, there's a reason they keep bringing her... I want to say it's Viola Davis. They keep bringing her back because she does a great job as the role. But I don't know why we need so much fucking Task Force X Amanda Waller. But that's besides the point. I think the show was great. I think it's a great show. I like the animation. I like the character designs. I like their interpretation of Superman so far. Like, there's definitely some element of Superman American Alien in there. They're definitely taking some influence from it. But there is a heavy element of this being like a romance show. About, you know, Clark and Lois falling in love. And I really like that. And I want more of that. And so far, I think they're doing a great job at it. I don't know. My biggest fear is not them, you know... I already think they're doing a good job at adapting Superman. No. My biggest fear is that this is only going to get a single season. That, you know, because David Zaslav is basically the villain, the modern-day villain of Hollywood. Like, if actors decide to strike here soon, like, if we get an actor strike, he's going to be one of the main reasons why. He is one of the main villains in Hollywood. And, because, yeah, he's a fucking cunt. But, yeah, with everything that's happened with him and Warner Brothers, I definitely have the worry that, like, every show at Warner Brothers is making is going to be canceled. Like, I'm amazed that Harley Quinn is getting a 4th season. Because Warner Brothers has literally canceled every other show. The fact that that one gets to survive, the fact that this one survived at all, still kind of surprises me. So, I really want this show to go all the way. Like, right now, right, we've seen Leslie. I'm pretty sure at one point they reference, Parasite. Like, in the background of one of the things, I think they reference... They either reference Parasite or Amazo. I kind of don't remember which. I know it was one of them. But I could see both of them showing up in the show. So, like, I want more and more of it. But we'll see if we actually get that. Yeah, I would love for them to go all the way. Because, yeah, this is one of the better adaptations we've had of Superman. I don't know. I haven't seen that CW show, but I will say I do like about that CW show is that it is an older Superman, right? Like, oh, this is a Superman that has had kids, right? One of the things I haven't read many modern Superman comics, but I do like the idea of him retiring, him growing old, having kids, and his kids taking up the mantle. It's what pisses me off with Batman. Like, Batman and also Spider-Man, is that they should have retired and just let their kids take over. Tim Drake should be Batman. Miles Morales should be the only Spider-Man. But instead, we're just getting god-awful Spider-Man comics. And admittedly, I don't know what's going on with Batman at the moment either. I haven't read that many comics recently. If I'm being fully honest, yeah, I have not read that many comics. I've been doing other stuff. But no, I think this is a great show. We'll be back every week to talk about it, because I do enjoy it. I have been having a good time with it. Alright, so I guess let's talk about Marvel next. So we got another episode of Secret Invasion. I still think the show was fine. This episode, God, what even freaking happened? We find out that, yeah, that the woman at the end is Nick Fury's wife, of course, but also that I'm pretty sure he knows she's a Skrull. Like, we get this flashback of when they were younger, and she talks about having, like, multiple faces. He knows she's a Skrull. But, of course, the thing with her is that, you know, when he disappeared the first time in the blip, she was a widow. When he disappeared the second time to go up into the space station, well, then she was left to fend for her own. And based on the ending, it looks like she's working with Gravik. Also, based on the ending of the episode, because she calls somebody, and it's like, I want to speak to Gravik. The person she calls is Rhodey. You can hear Rhodey's voice. So it looks like either Rhodey is a Skrull, or somehow they're in collusion with Gravik. I don't know. There's a whole number of things. It could be... So that's a whole thing. There's a theory right now that it looks like there's two Nick Furies. There's the Nick Fury that's at home with his wife, the one wearing glasses. And then there's the Nick Fury who's out in the field, the one with Talos, who stops the nuclear attack on that plane, right? The submarine from hitting the plane. Because that's the big Talos and Fury go on this like side quest to stop three Skrulls who have integrated into a nuclear submarine and plan on like nuking a UN plane. So they stop that. And yeah, what else happened? So Talos goes and meets with Gravik, and at one point he Talos stabs Gravik, and after they pull the knife out, you see him like heal, and it's like Extremis, the Extremis virus from Iron Man 3. So it looks like Talos is already a Super Skrull. Because we do see the Super Skrull machine early on in the... Right, we saw it in the last episode. We see it again in this episode. So it looks like, yeah, that's him and maybe all the other, like, world leader Skrulls were turned into Super Skrulls. If you don't know, Super Skrulls in the original Super Skrull was a Skrull who had the powers of all four Fantastic Four members. So, right, the Mr. Fantastic, the Invisible Woman... the Human Torch and the Thing. So it looks like, yeah, we're going to have Super Skrull. I mean, we kind of already figured that was going to happen. But it looks like they're just going to have random powers. Like, I want to say in the last episode, it was like, I want to say Groot was mentioned. I want to say Frost Giants were well mentioned. There were like a few things. But it makes sense. Yeah, I still kind of feel whatever about the show. Like, I'm watching it, yeah, because I watch everything in Marvel. But I'm not, like, blown away by it. Like, I'm not having, like, the best time. But I'm not hating it or anything. Again, I feel like everyone else is more hyped for the show than I am. Well, I feel like... Okay, that's a lie, because I know this is, like, the worst, like, premiere of a Disney Plus MCU show. Like, I want to say, like, not even 1 million people watched it. Like, only 90K. So, I'm clearly not the only one not hyped for the show. But I don't know. It's just kind of whatever. You know, it's Secret Invasion. Is it an actual secret invasion? Is it a damn obvious assault? I mean, I guess, kind of. Should this have been an Avengers movie or a Captain Marvel movie? I don't know about that. I do definitely feel like you can have better stakes in a TV show by, like, slowly like, with the idea of a secret invasion. You can, like, slowly build things up. The only problem, potentially, is that since we keep seeing things from the Skrulls' point of view, that's kind of giving away some of the secrets. Oh, and then the big thing at the end of the episode, again, no character is safe in the show. They killed off Colby Smolder's character in the first episode, and then in this episode they kill off Gaia, Talos' daughter. I mean, there's a chance she's not dead, but she's probably dead. Because, you know, she betrayed Gravik multiple times throughout these past 3 episodes. Like, not every time, but multiple times, definitely. Secret Invasion. Could be worse. Anything else that really stood out? Oh, really? I don't know how many episodes Secret Invasion is going to be. That's the other thing. I have to assume it's gonna be like. I'm gonna assume it's gonna be 6 episodes. Secret Invasion. 6 episodes total. Okay, so we're halfway through. Alright. So that, I guess, takes us to our final thing. The last mediocre thing I saw. Ruby Gillman Teenage Kraken. So, you know, I thought the trailer for this movie was like, oh, you know, that could be fun. I mean, it's DreamWorks. We're coming off of Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, which was great, by the way. So I was like, you know, this might be fun. For some reason, I remember this movie being based off of a book. It isn't, but for some reason I thought it was. But yeah, I thought this movie, well, I'll be honest. I remember when the trailer came out, people were like, oh, hey, there you go. You just gave away the entire movie in the trailer. Having actually seen the movie now, yeah, kind of. I mean, they don't give away everything, but they give away, like, I don't know, like 85%. So, yeah, I mean, I didn't hate it. I had some fun with it. But I didn't love it either. It's definitely something I've seen before. Specifically with Turning Red and Luca. Imagine if you just turned Turning Red and Luca, combine them together into a single movie. That is this movie. Because it has the mother-daughter elements of Turning Red, with like we transform into another form that, you know, we have to keep secret from people. But hey, the grandmother's gonna come and talk to, you know, you'll learn from her and everything and stuff like that. But then, you know, it's got the underwater elements of Luca. And yeah, it's just, the problem is that, yeah, those 2 movies, specifically Turning Red, this is literally just a worse Turning Red. And I feel like that's its biggest sin. Is that it's just a worse version of, you know, an actually pretty decent Disney movie that we got last year. And that kind of sucks, because, you know, I I wanted this to be better than it actually was. But yeah, it's the daughter is this Kraken. They're told never to go into the water. One day she does to save a guy, and this awakens her Kraken powers and turns her into a giant creature. And then she and her mom get into like a fight over, well, oh, you should stay away from the water. But oh, won't you tell me about like our history? And the mom's like, no. So they get into a fight, and Ruby runs away to meet her grandmother. And then she meets a mermaid. There's a human hunting the Krakens, but he's such a non-player in this. And he actually, by the end, ends up helping them hunt the mermaid. But, yeah, so she goes and meets... So she befriends this mermaid. But, of course, from the trailers, we all know the mermaids are evil. And eventually the mermaid... she learns how to be a good Kraken, how to use her powers... She goes and I'm just going to spoil the whole thing, because really there's not much to it. If you've seen the trailer, you've seen the movie, basically. She learns her powers, she goes and gets this trident that the mermaid then steals. Because as it turns out, her mom was like this epic Kraken warrior who defeated the mermaid queen. And this new mermaid, Chelsea, is like, oh, I'm the old queen's daughter. But then, surprise twist, no, she's actually just the mermaid queen. She betrays them. She goes to kill Ruby's mother. But then Ruby and her grandmother and her mom are able... And, the grandmother and the mom hate each other. Because, generational trauma. Again, it's a worse turning red. But then, in the end, all three of them are able to work together. You find out the grandmother's going to therapy. Which is like a throwaway line, but I actually think it's kind of important. But they're able to work together, save the city... And Ruby goes to prom, and all is well that ends well. Yeah, that's basically the trailers. I actually do think, as the twist goes, of like, hey, guess what? Surprise, Chelsea was actually the mermaid queen the whole time. As a twist, I think that is less interesting than if the untwist of, no, guess what? Chelsea actually was the mermaid queen's daughter. And that, the only reason she was going to kill the mermaids was because it was what she was told to do, right? If the villain had the same generational trauma as the hero. And that I feel like the untwist of, in the end, Chelsea and Ruby are able to work together, and, all's well that ends well, is more interesting than the twist of, hey, guess what? Chelsea was just evil, and, yeah, we defeat her and put her in a cage at the end. And then there's a lot of social media in this movie. Like the captain who's trying to hunt the Krakens is spreading his information on social media because he gives like boat tours of the town. The dad does ASMR bottle social media, which is also kind of funny. Like there's a bunch of like references to like Twitch streams. There's Ruby's whole subplot with her wanting to go to the prom, but her mom won't let her. And there's a boy she wants to ask out. But I actually think it would have been more interesting if they had just gotten that out of the way early. Because we know he's going to say yes. And, like, even at the point where he goes to ask her before he falls in the water, I kind of wish he had just said yes. And then he had fallen in the water, like, as they were, like, celebrating. Because they could have... we're not going to talk about it this week, but I've been watching the anime Horimiya, because the second season just started airing. And in that, right, in like the third or fourth episode, they're dating. And it's like, oh, thank God, a romance anime where they don't spend the entire season being like, will they? Won't they? Nope, in like the third episode, they're together. I think it's the fourth, but it's something, it's early on like that. It's a pretty decent anime. I don't know. I have like 2 episodes left, and I haven't watched any, and I haven't watched it in like 2 days because, yeah. Said I watched Solar Opposites. No, I've been working on that for like 2 weeks, and I literally just forgot to talk about it last week. That's the only reason we didn't talk about season 2, was because I forgot to talk about it last week, because I didn't write it down. But yeah, the actual, I think animation-wise, like, it's more, you know, this isn't Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. This isn't Spider-Verse. It doesn't go that far with the animation. But I'm not going to say the animation looks bad or anything. It feels more traditional DreamWorks, you know, like your Boss Babies or your other examples. It feels a lot more like traditional DreamWorks. I don't think it's bad, but I also don't think it's amazing. I don't know. We're potentially living in a new age of animation, triggered by stuff like Spider-Verse, Bad Guys, Puss in Boots, and this one plays it a lot safer. But yeah, no. The big thing with the story, it's been driving me crazy, because I recently watched something that worked just like this. Where, right, it was about a kid who discovers they have magic powers. Turns out their parents have been lying to them. And then, so they go out and they meet, like, their grandparents to find out the truth. And I'm not thinking of Turning Red. I'm thinking of something like I've, like, watched in the past, like, month or two. The only other thing I can think of, which technically doesn't fit the bill perfectly, is Percy Jackson. Because I did reread the first Percy Jackson recently, because I went and saw the musical. And so I reread the first book, and that kind, you know, a kid who was being lied to by their parents, who, you know, learns they have special powers and goes to save the world. But for some reason, the version I'm thinking of, like, the grandmother, like, betrays them, and then, like, and then, like, realizes their mistake or something. I don't know. I've been trying to go through my head of, like, everything I've watched in the past, like, few months. And I can't, other than Turning Red and Percy, I can't think of anything else where it's like a character who discovers they have powers, gets betrayed, right, their parents have been lying to them, so they run away, get help from an elderly relative, or maybe even an uncle. And then they end up, like, reconciling with their parents. I don't think the parent dies. I don't know. I've seen something recently that did that. I just can't think what it is. I don't think it was anything Disney, right? It wasn't your Amphibias or your Owl Houses. I can't even remember the last show I saw from Cartoon Network. And I'm thinking it was, you know, kids show. Like, that fits the bill. I don't know. There's like I'm sure somewhere's on TV Tropes, there's the exact trope I'm looking for. And it's not, like, I know there's, like, superpowered puberty, like, that's a trope. And it's somewhere's along those lines. But somewhere's on there, there's, like, the exact trope I'm looking for. And I just don't know what it's called. So I can't find it. But the close are those two. And I don't think it's Turning Red, because I saw it more recently. And it was more like your action side. Like, it might have even been like Aliens or something. I have been trying to think about it ever since I saw it. And I just can't think. I can't think of anything that fits perfectly. That's the problem. Because, I mean, Turning Red fits perfectly, but I don't think I'm thinking of that. Because it was more recent than that. I don't know. It's driving me crazy. God, we went for 2 hours tonight. I did not want to go for 2 hours tonight. I had a lot to fucking say, I guess, on Solar Opposites. Beats me. I did not expect that. What else have I been... No, it couldn't have been that book. Oh, I have not... you know, an animated movie I probably should have watched instead of Ruby Gillman was Nimona. Because I know that came to Netflix last week, and I just did not have the time. And then this week, yeah, I chose to go watch Ruby Gillman and finish Solar Opposites. But hopefully by next week I will have seen Nimona, so we'll talk about it then. That's a book. I think I said this last week. That's a book that has been sitting on my shelf for years at this point, and I've just never read it. I didn't even know it was a graphic novel. I thought it was like an actual, like, text book. Like, you know, like your other YA books. Right, but no, it's instead... Because I have read... it's like more of a graphic novel, like Lumberjanes, which I have read, and I really do like. Lumberjanes is pretty good. I recommend it. I like it more early on. Like, there's definitely a point where I feel like it kind of stops being as good. But early on, it's pretty great. I don't know, we talked about it sometime. Because I finally... It's one of those books that, like, kind of like Invincible, where it's like, I started reading it a while ago, and then I never finished it. And I finished it, like, last year, or, like, 2 years ago. I think that's where we're calling it there for the night. So, what's next? God, look at all those. Look at all those sparkly weapons. Oh, that locker is actually pretty cool. I hate how they deal shells out in Salmon Run. I wonder how close I am to... Oh god, we're not even halfway there. I don't know how anyone has those max level patches. Those take forever. Or at least more than one. Like, I saw someone earlier who had, like, one for the Splash-O-Matic and one for the Neo Splash-O-Matic. And I have no idea how you do both. Oh, that's cute. Alright. I don't think I've gotten the last piece of gear from this one. I think that's it. I don't remember. It might be, it might not be. I kind of don't remember. God, I'm tired. I also kind of have a headache. Oh, we got an NES. So, depending on how things go, tomorrow we might be back with Tears of the Kingdom. If not, we'll be back Monday. I don't know. It all depends on what I have going on tomorrow. We'll see. But we're making good progress, you know. So the VODs on Tears of the Kingdom, I could not... I tried to edit them together. For episodes... I want to say they were, what, like 15 and 16, or... let me... Episodes, yeah, 15 and... So, for episode 15, right, it was one stream, but about halfway through the stream, or like 50 minutes in, my internet gave out. So, in post-editing, I tried to edit them together as one stream. And the edited together stream, like, okay, so one part is like, the first part is like 4 gigs, and the second part is like 11 gigs. So you would think, oh, at those 2 videos edited together, they'd be like 15 gigs. No. The 2 parts edited together were like 70 fucking gigs. And I was like, what? That's wild. So I tried to lower it down. I tried to lower it down, see if I could get it any smaller. I could get it down to like 38 gigs. And I'm just like, I don't know if this is worth it. Having this massive fucking file. Like, that it basically be, the 70 gig version would be like all the space I have left on my computer. Because, the rest of my terabyte or whatever is filled up. I've probably got, yeah, like, probably like 100 gigs left. I need to clear some stuff out. But I was like, shit, I also need, my computer does not have that much storage. It only has like a single terabyte. It's not great. But I was like, oh god, I don't want to make a 70, and that's going to take forever, because it's like a 4.5 hour stream. And I was like, that's going to take forever. So I was like, you know what, it's just easier to upload it as 2 parts. So I uploaded it as part 15 and part 16, and I was like, yeah, we'll just call it there. Because I could not get it in. Like, I just wanted to smash the 2 clips together. Like, I knew it was going to be bigger together. But I figured when I, like, put the 2 together, it would be, like, 20 gigs at most. But it's fucking, like, 70. And it was more than that. Like, it was probably closer to 80. But it was a lot. And I was like, nah, I'm not going to do that. So I just uploaded those as 2 separate parts. So the next part we'll start off will be part 17. And yeah, if I had to guess, we've got like 3 more parts before we beat the game. If I had to guess, I don't know. We've gotten to the point, the game's been out for a month now. And we've gotten to the point where people don't care. People are totally willing to post the day. So when we found the light dragon in Tears of the Kingdom, the next day, I saw a video on TikTok of somebody just like being like, yep, here you go. Here's the answer. And I'm pretty sure I have seen a clip of the final boss. I scrolled past it real quick, but I'm like 90% sure I've seen a clip of the final boss. So we're at the point where the game's been out long enough that nobody cares about spoilers anymore. Hasn't the game actually been out for 2 months now? Yeah, no, it's been 2 months. Or it's coming up on it anyways. So I need to beat the game sooner rather than later. But so we'll continue on with that. We are alternating still with Pikmin 2. We played Pikmin 2. We cleared off half the debt. That just because we have done half the debt does not mean we're halfway through the game. I would say maybe we're a quarter of the way through the game. If I'm being general, that's probably an underestimate. Maybe we're like a fourth of the way. Or wait, a quarter is a fourth. Yeah, we're probably, a quarter of the way through the game. I was going to say a third. Yeah, we're probably somewhere between a third and a quarter. So maybe like 9%. I don't know. In some ways things will pick up as we get farther in, but in other ways they won't. We've still got a lot more to do though. But we should beat Pikmin 2 by the time Pikmin 4 comes out. And then we'll do Pikmin 4, and yeah. And I can already tell you stream schedule has been pretty consistent these past few months. Mainly because, I've had my work schedule. But I filled out my schedule for August, and I can tell you things are changing. So I don't know what's going to happen. Besides for in-chat. Because we do it so late on Saturday nights. Besides for in-chat, I don't know what else is going to change. But I'll figure it out when I get there. Not like anybody's watching. But we're at least going to get Pikmin 4. And God, am I excited. But yeah, next weekend in chat, we'll maybe be in Mario Kart. The Mario Kart DLC comes out on Tuesday or Wednesday. I don't remember. So the hope is that we will be in Mario Kart. And we'll play some of that. Check out the new tracks. I don't care about the new characters. But we'll check out the new tracks. Hopefully they add some more buffs. I really liked that last update where they, instead of nerfing anything, they just buffed everything. That was a good idea. I hope they do more of that. Because there are other things that need buffs. Make the bad wagon good. Not that I will ever use it. But yeah, and then I know I say we'll be in Mario Kart. I know there's a Splatfest next week. I don't know. I'm kind of out on Splatoon right now. I've had no desire to play it. And, like, I know we have been playing it for in chat, but I've had no real desire to play it. Like, it's just like, oh, it's the thing we do. Like I said, I could just pre-record gameplay and just call it a day there. It'd actually probably make the show a lot easier to do. You know, just fully embrace our Subway Surfer lifestyle, you know? Whatever. With that, I hope you all enjoyed. Stay tuned for more. Until next time, peace.